When I was a little boy chorister, Ascension Day was always very exciting. We used to get up early before school and climb to the top of the church tower of St. Michael's Church, Kingstainton in Devon, where I grew up. There, at the top of our lungs, we would sing one of the great Ascension hymns. It was always a memorable day, especially when you're 8, 9 years old. Wow, what a chance. And it was made all the more memorable one year when one of the older choristers, a woman, who was wearing a pair of one of the very first contact lenses, dared to look down over the roof of the tower to the floor, and one of her contact lenses fell out, and we watched it tumble down to the ground. So that particular year, we spent the rest of the time before school hunting for her contact lens in the gravel. Yeah, it's funny what you remember, isn't it, from your past? On Ascension Day, we recall Jesus' rather dramatic departure from the earthly scene. Now, our readings, as I've explained, were both from the same author, the illustrious Luke, writing to his friend Theophilus, which may also mean lover of wisdom. And they present us with two slightly different versions of the same event. I hope you picked up some of the differences, and if you didn't, I encourage you to go home and study them. It's just two portions, Luke 24, the end of Luke, and the beginning of Acts. Read them and compare and see if you can spot the differences yourself. In Luke's gospel, Jesus pretty much wraps things up in Jerusalem with a blessing, and then poof, he's gone. It's a quick and dignified exit. But then in Acts, we get the cloud, the staring disciples, and the two rather stern-looking chaps in white who essentially say, all right, lads, stop gawping. He'll be back. You go and get on with the work. Yeah, they're very different. It's like comparing a party balloon to a glitter cannon. Both stories get the job done, but one is undeniably more theatrical than the other. But why the discrepancy? Did Luke just wake up one morning and think, I know what this story needs. More clouds, a bit more in the way of angels. Let's have some trumpets playing and some brass instruments. No, perhaps that's a bit too much, but we'll just beef it up a bit. Or perhaps, and this is where a more progressive interpretation comes in, Luke, being a rather clever fellow, which he undeniably was, understood something about storytelling and evolving theology. It's lovely to welcome Barbara Hammond here this morning on a visit. Barbara is an amazing storyteller, and if you've never heard her stories of the Bible, they're all available on our website for you to listen to at your leisure. The gospel account that is written earlier, that Luke account, reflects, I think, a more immediate personal understanding of Jesus' final moments. By the time he wrote Acts, Luke had had more time to reflect, to shape the narrative into something that spoke more powerfully to that nascent Christian community. It's important we understand that Luke was doing theology, not journalism. He was painting a picture, not taking a photograph. Do you see the distinction? And sometimes to truly grasp a deep truth, you need to add a bit of glitter and a cloud or two and a few angels, just to get the point over. And let's not forget the worldview that these stories emerged from. For our biblical ancestors, the universe wasn't a vast, expanding cosmic soup of black holes and supernebulae that we know. No, it was a neat and tidy affair. It was a bit like the Harry Potter night bus, if any of you have ever seen a Harry Potter film or read a Harry Potter book, or a triple-decker sandwich. There was heaven above, where God and the angels dwelled, probably sitting around on rather posh, celestial sofas. And then there's earth in the middle. It's a somewhat messy domain, which is why Jesus needs to come to earth and sort it out. And then below there's the world of the dead, Sheol. It's like a rather gloomy basement apartment. It's not quite hell in the fiery sense, but it's certainly not a place you choose to go on holiday. So for Jesus to ascend literally means he's going up into God's domain as it was understood by the people of the time. It made perfect sense in their spatial understanding of reality. It was a cosmic elevator ride to the penthouse suite. But for us, who live in an age of space telescopes and quantum physics, a literal ascent through the atmosphere feels, well, a bit quaint, really, doesn't it? Do we really imagine Jesus, zipping past the International Space Station, perhaps waving at a few UFOs that have gathered around planet Earth? Yeah? No, that's not how we read it. The deeper meaning of the ascension, what it still has to communicate to us today, is not about astrophysics, it's about metaphysics. It's about the nature of God's presence in the world. Now listen up. The ascension isn't Jesus abandoning us, disappearing off to heaven. It's Jesus permeating us. It's not about him going away. It's about him being everywhere. When we say Jesus is at the right hand of God, I hope we're not picturing a sort of heavenly throne room with Jesus perched on a golden stool next to the Almighty. Instead, we're using theological shorthand for divine authority, power, and ultimate presence. It means that the divine, as embodied in Jesus, is now fully integrated into the very fabric of existence. The ascension, if you like, it's a kind of cosmic inhale. It's the breath of God drawing all that is good, true, and beautiful into the divine heart. It's a profound affirmation that humanity, in its highest expression as Jesus, is not separate from the divine, but intimately connected, indeed inseparable from the divine. Jesus, fully human, ascends into the fully divine. He shows us that our humanity, when fully lived in love and in compassion, is also a part of the divine dance. So how should we read this story in a way that is relevant and sensible to our modern world? I suggest that we should read it not as a historical documentary of a celestial journey, but as a myth in the truest, deepest sense of that word. It's a myth that reveals profound truths about reality. The Ascension tells us that God is not a distant absentee landlord sitting around on his throne in heaven, waiting one day to come back in the form of Jesus, but he's an indwelling presence. It tells us that the Spirit of Christ, that radical love and transformative power, is not confined to a single historical figure, but is now accessible to all and through all who seek it. It means we don't have to look up to find Jesus. We just have to look around. We just have to look at the marginalized and the suffering, the joyful and the courageous. We look at the beauty of creation and the resilience of the human spirit. We look within ourselves at the stirrings of compassion and justice. Because if Jesus ascended, if he is truly at the right hand of God, then he is immanent. It's a theological term. He's present. He's actively working through each one of us right here, right now. So in conclusion, I advise not standing gawping up at the sky, waiting for a dramatic return. Let's rather look around us and then look to our own hands, our own feet, our own hearts. Let us embody the Christ that has ascended into all things, and in doing so, maybe bring a little bit of heaven here on earth. Amen. Amen.